Property, plant, and equipment. There are certain assets which are acquired for safety or environmental reasons. These assets do not directly contribute to the future economic benefit. However, their use might be integral part of the main operations, and hence they may be necessary to drive future economic benefit. Or their use might be compulsory by virtue of any environmental law. In such cases, these assets qualify for recognition and measurement under IAS 16. There are also future environmental restoration costs like dismantling, decommissioning, and site restoration expenses, which are added to the cost of the asset today, to the extent that these are recognized as provision under IAS 37. And we will discuss IAS 37 later on during this presentation. There is a food for thought. If for a moment we think about the natural capital, then our land, plant and machinery, and vehicles are significant environmentally sensitive fixed assets, in that they contribute to the environmental impairment of natural assets. IAS 37 provisions contingent liabilities and contingent assets. IAS 37 is the most important and relevant standard for environmental issues. It deals with the provision and contingent liabilities arising from past events having environmental consequences. Provisions are liabilities with uncertain timing and amount. A company may be required to dispose waste or clean up and restore the site by virtue of any environmental law. This is a legal obligation. Similarly, there could be constructive obligation also. For example, a company conducts its extractive activities in a country with no environmental law. However, it has publicized its environmental policy, which states that any environmental restoration expenses arising out of pollution activities will be supported by the company. In case such incidents occur, then there is a constructive obligation and a best estimate provision will be recognized in the financial statements. IAS 2 inventories. There are certain highly polluting industries like mining, which produce huge waste. This standard requires that commercial waste shall only be recognized as inventory if the additional costs have been incurred to bring the waste into saleable condition. This is implication of IAS 2 from environmental perspective. IAS 10, events after the reporting period. Let's take another example. An offshore oil spill occurring after the balance sheet date is a non-adjusting event. If such non-adjusting events are material, then the financial statements need to disclose the nature of the event and also the best possible financial effect. IAS 36, impairment of assets. IAS 36 can be applied whenever a company's environmental assets suffer impairment by virtue of any contamination or any accident, physical accident, by virtue of any loss of contractual right, or by virtue of change in environmental laws. IAS 38, intangible. IAS 38 deals with recognition and measurement of intangibles, which also include environmental assets. For example, development expenses or greenhouse gas emission rights under the Kyoto Protocol. IAS 8, accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates and error. When the environmental impacts are material to the financial statements, for example, if a company is involved in emissions trading or incurs significant environmental rehabilitation cost, then it is often necessary to disclose the environmental policy or the accounting policy adopted by the company. Likewise, any change in environmental provision is a change in accounting estimate and shall be dealt with as per IAS 8. IAS 41 Agriculture. This standard does not specifically address any environmental issue. However, it targets a sector with highly sensitive environmental profile. It deals with the recognition and measurement of biological assets, living animals and plants, associated with the agriculture activities of an organization. IFRS 6, Exploration for and Evaluation of Mineral Resources. IFRS 6 is linked to the extraction activities which are widely acknowledged as environmentally sensitive. It deals with the recognition of exploration expenses and also the recognition of mineral resources as assets. This is an environmental side of IFRS 6. In addition to that, there are also various interpretations issued by International Financial Reporting Interpretation Committee, which are related to environmental matters. These are IFRIC 1, changes in existing decommissioning, restoration, and similar liabilities. IFRIC 5, rights to interest arising from decommissioning, restoration, and environmental rehabilitation funds. And IFRIC 6, liabilities arising from participating in a specific market, which is waste, electrical, and electronic equipments. IAS 19, employee benefits. IAS 19 can be considered for the coverage of social reporting, ESGS, because employees are the first door to society. There are comprehensive requirements for recognition, measurement, and disclosure of short-term employee benefits, termination benefits, and post-employment benefits. There are key disclosures about about actuarial assumptions, which can be covered under the social aspect of reporting. And these are expected rate of salary increase and best estimate of employer contribution expected to be paid during the current year. These are some illustrative disclosures of the financial statements which have been prepared as per IFRS. This is the snapshot from the financial statements of Rio Tinto. It shows the movement of provision for pension and retirement benefit, other employee entitlements, close down, and environmental restoration cost, environmental disclosures and social disclosure as per IFRS. This is an illustrative disclosure from BP. It shows the movement of provision for decommissioning, environmental cost, spill responses and litigation and claims, and Clean Water Act penalties. Environmental disclosure as per IFRS. This is again the disclosure from BP. It discloses about the assessment of the effect of oil spill on the natural capital. These financial statements are prepared as per IFRS. In the words of Sir David Tweedy, chair of the International Accounting Standard Board, accounting doesn't do things too well sometimes. And that is why narrative reporting is going to be so important in addition to the raw facts. There is an IASB's, International Accounting Standard Board's, IFRS practice statement on management commentary. Narrative reporting gets you closer to your stakeholders by saying, let me explain this to you in descriptive, right? And it is a vital ingredient of a corporate reporting. You have the balance sheet, you have the notes to the accounts, then you have to explain to your shareholders in the narrative reporting, in the management commentary. From the ESG perspective, narrative reporting can help you to explain ESG risks and opportunities, ESG policies, ESG laws and compliances, management approach to ESG, and explanation of negative ESG impacts, and non-financial KPIs for ESG. These will become part of the management commentary. Way forward. Now I will take courage to give a wake-up call to the standard setters. There shall be a separate standard for minimum environmental disclosures in IFRS, at least for highly sensitive environmental companies. And the companies can innovate by producing their environmental profit and loss account. And Puma has set this standard I will show you the Puma P&L. As we all know that integrated reporting is coming soon. So our current standards, including IFRS, shall be developed in parallel to allow for a smooth transition towards integrated reporting. And there shall be separate standards for social and governance for reporting, which should be accepted globally and recognized. This is the snapshot of Puma's environmental profit and loss account. Valuation of greenhouse gas emissions and water consumption in economic terms. 66 euros per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. Water, 0.81 euros per metric cube of water consumption. This is the snapshot of environmental profit and loss account of Puma, which you can find from their website. It shows the environmental P&L from regional and segment perspective to allow for better decision making of the natural resources which they are consuming. Thank you very much. I want to congratulate everyone who has been involved in putting together this wonderful summit. In the last, I would like to show you a video from A4S Prince Charles projects.
And now, an urgent appeal on behalf of the planet.
I'm down here. How do I look from there? Not bad. Well, take a closer look. Do I look well to you? Ah, you've noticed then? I'm losing bits of me as we speak. I'm receding rapidly on top. And down there, yes, go on, take a peek. Used to be dense forest full of life and diversity. Now it's a full Brazilian. If only my carbon emissions were in remission. You've pretty much exhausted me. Think of me as a life support machine, supporting your business, your lifestyle, your children, your grandchildren. And they say the meek shall inherit the earth. I'm spent because you're spending it all now. You've doubled consumption of my resources in the last 30 years, piling up debt like you own a global credit card. Saving for the future, who gives an earthly? And let's face it, I'm dripping because of your asset stripping. Oh yes, you can account for your GDP and your share price, but who's accounting for my losses? My P&L doesn't show up in your financial ecosystem because no one is adding up the cost of the damage. But then you haven't put a value on it. What's the real cost to the environment of a holiday overseas? The cost of a habitat? Cost of a diminishing asset? Cost of rising sea levels? Yet they're all costing the earth, and someone is paying a price somewhere. It's quite simple, really. Show us the money. Account for this damage. Start accounting for the real cost of production by showing these hidden costs, so we create a realistic profit and loss account for the planet, including the value of my depreciating assets. No, and don't think you can rely on old Craterface over there to sustain you.
Accountants show hidden costs. They'll just cook the books, mate. Tell me, Mr. Accountant, what's this Monteverdi golden toad worth to my business? Oh, I don't know. Is the toad tax deductible on that?
This is about saving for the future by valuing what we have now.
Listen to you, gurgling on about the price of an armadillo. The stock market suffered a shock collapse today when the value of the armadillo plummeted.
You can moan all you like.
Yeah, and you can drone until it blew in the face.
Look at you. When's the last time you had any life in you, eh?
I'm due a probe in the next 3 years, apparently.
Cheers. More spaceships that pass in the night, I shouldn't wonder. At least there's some atmosphere down here.
Live today, gone tomorrow, that's what I say.
Some of us plan to survive if we start accounting for what's left.
Think anyone's listening out there? You must be living on another planet, mate.
Just remember, you need me more than I need you. Think about it.
Thank you, Mr. Hamid. Our next speaker is Mr. A.N. Raman. He is a fellow member of ICWAI, an associate member of ICAI, fellow member of ICMA of Sri Lanka, and very recently in May 2011 was conferred the membership of CPA Australia. Mr. Raman was the president of SAFA in 2011. His topic today is implications of the ESG information on the profession. If I can invite Mr. Raman.
I think it's more appropriate for me to wish you all good day rather than a good morning. And I am just standing between you and the lunch, so it's appropriate for me to be quick and smart at the same time. I'm extremely thankful to Professor Lakshman Vatawala, my long-term friend and colleague, for this excellent relationship he has driven between me and the Sri Lankan Institute of Certified Management Accountants. On this occasion, I represent the International Federation of Accountants, the Professional Accountants and Business Committee, and on behalf of the PIB Committee of IFAC, I bring their warm regards and greetings to the Institute and SAFA for this excellent topic and the excellent hosting. We all will be aware that this topic so coincides with the just concluding Rio Summit. So we also, in a way, exactly in the opposite side of the earth, we are making another summit and impact. I am sure that there will be a lot of takeaways. With the permission of the chair, let me explain to you that my presentation will be in 4 segments. The first segment will be without PowerPoint, and hence I request you to listen to me rather than seeing the slide. And the first segment would be more setting the context of what IFAC is doing and what SAFA has done. The second context would be what is ESG is all about and the findings of the survey of IFAC on this topic and why ESG factors are important. The third segment would be about the investors' approach and challenges to the mainstreaming of the ESG information. This is the biggest challenge for all of us. ESG shall not remain at the substream, it has to be the mainstream. And lastly, what are the implications and how would the professional accountants go about? This would be the 4th segment in which I will be negotiating through. And before I do that, let me first congratulate my very young friend from Pakistan for his very excellent presentation. I would request all of you to give him really a sound ovation. Let me tell you why I am saying so in just one sentence. How many of you got the thread of his presentation? I am not sure, but in one summed up headline, he has done no one has dared to done so far, at least in the presentations I have heard. What he has done beautifully is, I would request you to go back and very silently dwell on the presentation content he has made. Very nicely he has dived deep into the IFRS and IAS and very cleverly linked some of the components of this with the contents of the ESG information. That is a brilliance which he has attempted. I congratulate you, my friend. It's a beautiful part. So I would request you to go back and very calmly think on that. Though it's only one building block, perhaps given a little bit more time and contemplation, he would come up with more radical thoughts, because the sustainability and integrated reporting is not simply about the massaging the financials, but it is more linked to the business strategy. So the context setting is slightly different. Having said this, let me proceed with the first segment, what I wanted to speak. IFAC, as you all know, or some of you may not know, is a federation of almost all the accounting bodies in the world. Around roughly 150 accounting bodies of the world have become the members of this federation. And in their own interest, IFAC speaks on behalf of the professional accountants on various issues throughout the world. You call it as a global fiscal sustainability issue, or making a presentation to G20 about the role of accountants. Anywhere, now IFAC is very active, speaking on behalf of and establishing the case of the professional accountant community like you and me. This IFAC has got various committees. There is one general confusion between IFAC and the Accounting Standards Setting Board. They are totally independent. IFAC doesn't get into the task of setting accounting standards. That's an independent body. IFAC is more on, it has got a lot of committees. It has got a lot of work relating to regulation of the accounting education. It does a lot of work on ethics. If you look at the constituents of IFAC, there are two big constituencies. One constituency represents the professional accountants in practice, their interest, ethics, disciplining, auditing standards, assurance standards. There are a lot of boards and committees which get into that. There is another constituency in IFAC which it represents, and that constituency consists of professional accountants in business or in employment. Many of you, perhaps more than 50% of the world's professional accountants are in employment. So there is another committee of IFAC which takes up a lot of strategic work plan and issues guidelines, gives guidance materials, reaches out to that constituency which works in the business and not in practice. Now, I am a part of such a committee called Professional Accountants and Business Committee, having been nominated from India. So this committee does a lot of work, brings out a lot of guidelines, it brings out a lot of best practices which are beneficial to the professional accountants in employment. I'll just come back to it a little later before I connect myself with the second segment. Before I do that, I just want to have a dwell for a few minutes on what SAFA has been doing, perhaps for want of good throat or for want of time. My very worthy successor, Muhammad Rafi, could not touch on these issues because sustainability has moved to the center stage of SAFA, for which all of us are proud of. Starting way back in 2009, when my very good friend Komal Chitrakar was the vice president of SAFA, hailing from Nepal, we started focusing on sustainability step by step. To recall some of the very few instances, we had a wonderful workshop with the DNV rating agency on how to go about a sustainability reporting. Then we had the very famous sustainability summit in Kathmandu during the presidency of Mr. Komal Chitrakar, where I would bring to all your attention that all the accounting bodies of SAFA region signed what is called Kathmandu Declaration, committing ourselves to the sustainable development of the SAARC region. This is the next escalated milestone of the SAFA on sustainable development. Then came the era of working closely with the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative with its presence in the region from Delhi. We built excellent rapport with GRI, and that escalated in ICA Bangladesh, also focusing on the same topic last year in Dhaka under the presidency of Madam Parveen Mahmood. So we had an excellent summit there on the same topic once again, and that resulted in the signing up of an MOU between GRI and SAFA, committing all the member bodies of SAFA for a wonderful working relationship with GRI. And on this occasion, I would like to record my appreciation for the steps forward which GRI focal point in this region is also taking from their side in the form of Aditi Haldar, who is also present here amidst us today. I would like to acknowledge her leadership in this. As you all know, you are seeing, you are witnessing how the world is moving. We cannot escape sustainability as a major theme. So that is going to engulf the accountants, and we need to embrace it before it engulfs us. And that is the importance of our working relationship with GRI, and the commitment which GRI is showing to us. So step by step, taking baby steps, we have escalated the focus of sustainability in SAFA. It has moved into the center stage, and the strategy matrix which we adopted, sustainable development of the region, has become one of the key themes of SAFA last year, which I am sure the illustrious board must be taking forward in the days to come, and they must be already on that job. So this is the context in which SAFA is also holding the sustainability as a major theme, and finally resulting in this wonderful summit being hosted by Lakshman Vatawala and this institute. Coming to the last part of the first segment, the IFAC, which I was referring to earlier in the beginning of my presentation, has got one task force. The PIB committee has got one task force. And that task force is called Sustainability Task Force, which has got a lot of strategic work plan for bringing sustainability as a key topic for the professional accountants in business. There are a lot of deliverables of this task force and this committee. For example, there is a dedicated site for what is the framework of sustainability meant for the professional accountants. I am giving you an illustration as to how this task force is creating outputs. One of the important document of this particular subcommittee or the task force to bring various publications to the knowledge improvement of the professional accountants. And one such document is what you are seeing on the screen, titled as Investor Demand for Environmental, Social, and Governance Disclosures and How It Relates to the Professional Accountants in Business. So this moves me from the first segment of my presentation to the second segment. This segment is a primer for you, giving you a feel of how the committee started working on this and how it started creating an excellent technical document by defining what is ESG, consisting of the environmental, social, and the governance issues. As we all know, ESG factors play a very large part in helping companies achieve sustainable organizational success. So here at this point, I would like you to understand, since also in the presence of the Colombo Stock Exchange chairman, how this committee and this IFAC is systematically moving the frontiers of knowledge. Sometimes when we catch up a little later, we are not aware that slowly and systematically the benchmarks or the domain or the boundary of the knowledge is moving up and up. And we are, as regulators, we may be catching up behind. The first was corporate governance. And still today, the whole world of stock exchanges and regulators are still abuzz with the word of regulations for corporate governance. But you know what IFAC did? It moved the dial from corporate governance to what is called an enterprise governance. That was done 10 years back, or more than that. So in this enterprise governance, which is an expanded form of corporate governance, it said the governance is not about only regulations and compliance, it's also about performance. And what performance? Sustainable performance. So it created a framework as to what is the best enterprise governance framework is all about. Somewhere people started confusing between enterprise governance and corporate governance. So IFAC moved the frame enterprise governance by removing the word enterprise and said this is the governance framework is all about. So it pushed it to what is called the governance framework and started defining or reissuing the documents and standards once again, the guidelines once again. Of late, for the last 3 years or 4 years, the world is moving towards sustainability. The world in a big way is shifting to integrated reporting. And having seen the integration of all this, the current buzzword or the framework in which IFAC is operating and document has been issued is not corporate governance, it's not enterprise governance, it's not governance, but it is called integrated governance. So that is the current buzzword which IFAC is using, that the professional accountants, whether they are in practice, whether they are in employment or business, should all about rallying around the integrated governance, which consists of governing the bodies not only for compliance, but also ensuring environmental performance, social performance, and good governance with a very good economic performance. So this is the movement into which integrated governance has taken place. Now in this integrated governance, the ESG factors play a very, very large part in helping the companies achieve sustainable success. Towards this end of moving the boundaries, IFAC conducts surveys quite often. Survey is a tool by which they capture the market movements and sentiments. To significant extent, bodies like the CPA and our own member bodies in SAARC region, SAFA, then bodies of the Europe and bodies in Canada, they do a lot of surveys along with IFAC, and a lot of inputs are given. As per this survey finding, it has been observed by the IFAC PIB committee that ESG disclosures are increasingly used by investors to understand a company's material ESG factors and how they impact overall performance. Where I made a subtle difference in my young friend's presentation from Pakistan is not purely about massaging or tinkering with the financials alone by bringing in factors of sustainable ESG factors. It is not that alone which matters now. What has been done as a part of the current trend is that it's not purely tinkering with the financial results using even IFRS framework by linking with these disclosures. It's not that alone. But the key element of sustainability reporting, if many of you are well versed in that GRI framework, it is not about only operational performance, but the entire disclosure should be integrated with the strategy of a company. So to that extent, the performance indicators may not be the past, it can be futuristic also, which means it need not be accountancy based. It can be a predicted information. A predictive framework also can come into being in the form of application of predictive analytics or a typical management accounting tool. And hence the survey says the investors are becoming more sophisticated in their investment approaches and are gravitating to a greater integration of ESG information. Certain types of key disclosures which are also futuristic in nature and connected with the strategy and not purely operational performance or measurement of the financial assets and liabilities. Also, in addition to that, looking at the assessing the financial outcomes, not necessarily based only on accounting standards, but also based on predicted cash flows. And hence, it also concluded that the managerial accountants like you and me also need to support the organizations in addressing the demand for ESG information. Having said this, it also declared that the ESG factors are very important because we are looking at the overall performance and not based on 1 year's performance. We are going to look at a company or a corporate entity's performance over a longer time horizon. And the ESG risk and performance can affect the long-term sustainable value. A company which is making very good profit today, after 10 years,